a recent segment that quickly gained traction online, Karoline Leavitt didn't hold back when discussing the political influence of celebrities, zeroing in on Taylor Swift as an example of what she views as a growing disconnect between cultural elites and everyday Americans. With a tone both biting and sarcastic, Leavitt addressed the speculation swirling around Swift's potential involvement in the upcoming presidential election, characterizing it as a desperate and calculated move by certain political operatives to tap into celebrity power in hopes of reviving dwindling enthusiasm among voters. Leavitt began her commentary by emphasizing the significant cultural sway Swift holds, particularly among young voters, and acknowledged that any signal she gives, whether through social media, public appearances, or award speeches, carries major political implications. Yet, instead of praising this influence, Leavitt used it as a launching point for criticism. She argued that attempting to use someone like Swift to drive voter turnout reveals a lack of genuine policy accomplishments or public trust. The idea, in her words, is that if the policies can't inspire the people, perhaps a pop star can. She continued by taking aim at Swift's lifestyle, using it to underscore what she sees as hypocrisy in celebrity activism. According to Leavitt, Swift represents a kind of performative empathy that glosses over the realities faced by working-class families. With an assertive tone, she highlighted how Swift flies on private jets, lives in multi-million-dollar properties, and has security details to protect her from the very problems she claims to care about. In Leavitt's view, this kind of privileged existence makes it nearly impossible for someone like Swift to understand or relate to the everyday struggles of Americans, whether it's inflation at the grocery store, the rising cost of gas, or the difficulty of finding affordable housing. Throughout the segment, Leavitt was careful to position herself as someone speaking on behalf of those who feel forgotten or left behind. She mocked the idea that a pop star, whose entire life is curated for fame and influence, can suddenly transform into a political authority. By pointing out the manufactured nature of celebrity images, she called into question the sincerity behind such endorsements. To her, a political message wrapped in glamour and broadcast through concert stages and Instagram filters is more about optics than substance. Her words weren't simply personal attacks, they were designed to challenge the growing fusion of entertainment and politics. She noted that it's one thing for artists to voice opinions, but quite another when they're positioned as moral compasses for millions. In her view, this elevation of celebrities into political icons isn't organic, it's strategic. She accused political insiders of weaponizing fame to mask policy failures and distract from the real issues affecting people's lives. Instead of focusing on debates about the economy, the border, or education, the narrative shifts to what outfit someone wore on stage or which cause they promoted in their acceptance speech. In a particularly sharp moment, Leavitt questioned, what qualifies someone like Swift to speak on issues such as the economy or international relations? She challenged the idea that a track record of hit singles or sold-out tours translates into political insight. According to her, being admired for artistic talent doesn't necessarily mean one has the experience or understanding to influence national policy. Yet, when celebrities take a public stand, their voices are often amplified beyond those of economists, educators, or community leaders. Leavitt also pointed to the selective outrage that often accompanies celebrity activism. She claimed that, while entertainers frequently speak out against injustice or inequality, they often remain silent on issues that don't align with their brand or image. For her, that selectivity is revealing. It suggests that their activism is more about maintaining popularity than advocating for real change. She suggested that such figures are shielded by PR teams and consultants who carefully craft every statement and appearance to maximize appeal, not impact. Finally, she warned of the dangers of turning political engagement into a form of pop culture. When elections become intertwined with fan loyalty and media hype, the risk is that serious decisions are made based on emotion rather than information. Leavitt emphasized the importance of scrutinizing messages no matter who delivers them, and encouraged viewers to look beyond the glitter to the real motivations behind high-profile endorsements. Karoline Leavitt's commentary during a recent media appearance sparked attention for its unapologetic and sardonic tone, particularly when she turned her focus to Taylor Swift's personal life. Rather than approaching the subject from a purely political angle, Leavitt delved into Swift's widely publicized romantic history, using it as a lens through which to question the credibility and judgment of celebrities who engage in politics. Her remarks were not subtle. They were crafted to provoke, to mock, and to draw a sharp contrast between celebrity culture and political seriousness. Central to her critique was the idea that Swift has built an empire not just through talent, but through a carefully curated public image that includes a long series of high-profile relationships. Leavitt referenced this aspect of Swift's life with biting wit, noting that much of the singer's career has been defined by her ability to turn failed romances into best-selling albums. While acknowledging Swift's songwriting success, she framed it as the product of a repetitive cycle: date, break up, write a hit, which she suggested reflects poor decision-making rather than empowerment. What Leavitt seemed to be implying, beneath the humor and mockery, was that Swift's personal experiences demonstrate a pattern of emotional impulsivity. She portrayed this pattern as incompatible with sound political judgment. If, according to Leavitt, Swift consistently picks the wrong guy, then what does that say about her ability to evaluate policies, leaders, and national priorities? The jab was meant to be more than personal. It was rhetorical, a way to challenge the idea that celebrity endorsements should carry political weight. She took this argument further by pointing to the immense platform Swift has amassed. With hundreds of millions of fans around the world, anything Swift says or does is magnified across media outlets and social networks. Leavitt questioned whether someone whose public narrative revolves around heartbreak and emotional turmoil should be treated as a guiding voice in matters of national consequence. In her view, romantic misadventures might make for compelling art, but they don't qualify someone to influence complex issues like the economy, foreign policy, or constitutional rights. Leavitt's remarks were also an implicit critique of the media's role in elevating figures like Swift beyond their realm of expertise. She suggested that the press often reinforces the myth that public figures with emotional stories and massive followings are somehow more qualified to speak on civic matters than everyday Americans or professionals who deal directly with policy issues. By turning Swift's love life into a symbol of misplaced priorities, Leavitt was issuing a broader warning: don't confuse popularity with wisdom. Another layer of her criticism involved what she framed as performative feminism. She took aim at the narrative that Swift's songs about breakups are empowering statements of female resilience. While many fans interpret Swift's lyrics as reclaiming emotional agency, Leavitt saw them differently, as chronicling an inability to make healthy or rational relationship choices, dressed up as empowerment. In this light, the idea that Swift could become a role model for young women in the political sphere seemed to Leavitt both absurd and disingenuous. She also questioned the sincerity of Swift's public image. While the pop star often portrays herself as a relatable figure who has experienced pain and growth, Leavitt argued that this image is calculated. The heartbreaks, she implied, are not only real experiences, but also strategic branding tools. Every failed relationship becomes part of the mythology, another story to sell, another lyric to sing, another message to spin. From Leavitt's point of view, this level of self-marketing erodes authenticity and makes political messaging feel more like a commercial than a conviction. Her comments were designed to resonate with those who are skeptical of celebrity involvement in politics. By using Swift's relationship history as a symbol of emotional inconsistency, she crafted a narrative that questions the wisdom of looking to entertainers for political direction. The emphasis was not just on Swift's past choices, but on what those choices allegedly reveal about her character and discernment. Even in the laughter and mockery, Leavitt's remarks carried a deeper critique of modern culture. In her framing, the elevation of someone whose fame is intertwined with romantic drama reflects a society too focused on spectacle and not enough on substance. Her comments, while sharp-edged and provocative, were part of a calculated effort to push back against the merging of entertainment and political leadership. Using Swift's public persona, Karoline Leavitt's remarks took a provocative turn when she leaned into the growing skepticism around the authenticity of certain celebrity narratives, especially those that seem to align too perfectly with political agendas. In discussing Taylor Swift's high-profile relationship and her potential political influence, Leavitt suggested that none of it might be as spontaneous or genuine as it appears on the surface. Instead, she raised the possibility that much of what the public sees could be the result of orchestrated efforts, crafted not just for entertainment, but for political manipulation. This wasn't just casual speculation. Leavitt framed it as part of a broader pattern where celebrity culture, media influence, and political strategy collide in ways that blur the line between public relations and propaganda. By questioning the authenticity of Swift's personal and public life, she aimed to dismantle the idea that what appears on social media or in press interviews is purely organic. For Leavitt, the relationship at the center of recent headlines, along with the timing of political messaging, was just a little too convenient. She pointed to how Swift's every move seems to dominate headlines across multiple media outlets, whether it's attending football games, being spotted with her partner, or making subtle political references during public appearances. The timing of these moments, according to Leavitt, often aligns suspiciously well with the political calendar or key news cycles. Rather than viewing this as coincidence, she presented it as a strategic narrative supported by powerful interests that understand how to shape public opinion through cultural figures. Leavitt didn't need to name names to make her point. Her message was clear. When a celebrity's personal life suddenly becomes inseparable from political discourse, and when their actions consistently support one ideological direction, it's reasonable to wonder who's pulling the strings. She suggested that behind the glamorous photos and emotional speeches might be entire teams of consultants, strategists, and political operatives working to ensure that the messaging aligns with broader goals. She also challenged the idea that such figures are apolitical or neutral. In her view, the media often presents celebrities like Swift as independent thinkers, simply voicing personal beliefs. But Leavitt pushed back on this narrative, arguing that the coordination behind the scenes, ranging from corporate sponsors to political influencers, makes it difficult to separate genuine conviction from manufactured consent. When every move is choreographed and every word is vetted, can the message still be considered authentic? A particularly striking part of her commentary involved the use of relationships as tools of influence. Leavitt pointed out that celebrity romances, especially when they involve two massive public figures, have the power to dominate headlines for weeks at a time. These relationships become more than just tabloid fodder. They evolve into cultural phenomena that can influence what people think, how they feel, and ultimately, how they vote. She questioned whether these relationships are always personal decisions, or if they sometimes serve a dual purpose, generating media buzz while nudging the public towards certain political sentiments. There was also an underlying critique of media complicity. Leavitt suggested that many mainstream outlets are more than willing to play along, eagerly broadcasting every update and turning casual moments into political statements. Whether it's a song lyric, a sideline glance, or a social media post, the interpretation is often infused with political meaning, then echoed across platforms until it becomes accepted as part of a larger political narrative. In this environment, she warned, entertainment and influence become indistinguishable. Leavitt's tone throughout this critique was both skeptical and sarcastic, as if daring viewers to question the carefully crafted stories they're being fed. She encouraged people to step back and look at the machinery behind the curtain, the branding experts, the political donors, the partnerships with corporate media, and the way it all fits together like a well-oiled campaign. In her framing, the emotional appeal of a song or the charm of a public figure shouldn't shield them from scrutiny, especially when their voices are amplified to sway public behavior. She wasn't necessarily accusing any individual of being part of a conspiracy, but rather highlighting a trend where fame is systematically leveraged to advance political narratives. The danger, as she framed it, lies in how easily the public accepts celebrity messaging without question, assuming it's pure when it may in fact be tactical. When personal stories are treated as truth and public platforms are treated as pulpits, the line between authentic influence and strategic manipulation gets increasingly hard to define. Karoline Leavitt's commentary took a sharper tone when addressing Taylor Swift's increasing involvement in political and civic engagement, particularly the way her influence is deployed during moments of heightened electoral importance. While Some view Swift's platform as a powerful tool to mobilize younger voters. Leavitt painted it as another example of the entertainment world blurring into politics in a way that prioritizes style over substance. She questioned whether the encouragement to get out and vote coming from a global pop star is truly neutral, or if it subtly reinforces one side of the political spectrum under the guise of civic duty. She noted the significant moments in recent years where Swift has used award show speeches, social media campaigns, and fan outreach to promote voter registration and participation. While those efforts are often celebrated in the media, Leavitt took a more cynical stance. She argued that these gestures, while outwardly noble, are often tied to larger cultural narratives that suggest only one kind of voter or one set of political views is acceptable or morally correct. This framing, in her view, does not encourage open dialogue, but rather pressures fans to conform to a particular worldview. Leavitt also pointed out the symbolic messaging embedded in Swift's appearances and public statements. From subtle nods to political causes to the deliberate timing of public messages around key elections, she suggested there is more intentionality at play than meets the eye. These aren't just random endorsements or emotional appeals, she argued. They're calculated moves designed to sway public sentiment through influence rather than information. The power of celebrity becomes less about inspiring thought and more about directing it. By focusing on the kind of language Swift uses when discussing political issues, Leavitt made the case that it often lacks depth, relying instead on broad emotional appeals. Phrases like "stand up for what's right" or "make your voice heard" are vague enough to sound universally agreeable, yet when paired with consistent media alignment and political timing, they begin to feel like targeted cues rather than genuine calls to independent thinking. Leavitt urged people to consider what messages are being embedded in those slogans, and whether they reflect true openness or ideological pressure masked as empowerment. Another element of her critique revolved around the imbalance of influence. Leavitt suggested that when a figure with such a massive following enters the political arena, even indirectly, it creates an unequal platform, one where dissenting voices, especially among younger audiences, are drowned out. Fans who disagree may feel isolated or afraid to speak up, knowing that their views clash with the dominant tone set by someone they once admired purely for their music. This dynamic, Leavitt warned, erodes the principles of open civic debate and fosters a culture of conformity. She also questioned the motives of media organizations and voting initiatives that eagerly partner with celebrity figures during election seasons. These collaborations, she argued, are rarely about civic awareness alone. Instead, they are often tailored to specific voter demographics known to lean in particular political directions. Swift's fan base, largely young and socially active, becomes a prime target for these campaigns. Leavitt raised concerns about the ethical implications of this approach, suggesting that it transforms voter outreach into a sophisticated branding effort where civic virtue is used as a sales pitch. While Swift may see herself as using her voice responsibly, Leavitt pushed the idea that responsibility must also involve humility, an understanding that fame does not automatically confer political wisdom. She questioned whether entertainers who step into civic discourse are truly equipped to lead conversations on complex topics like policy reform, economic strategy, or national security. The concern isn't necessarily about silencing voices, but about ensuring that those voices are weighed appropriately, not elevated simply because they come with a fan base of millions. Leavitt was particularly critical of how quickly these celebrity interventions are celebrated by mainstream media and institutions. Instead of analyzing the implications of such involvement, headlines often amplify the message uncritically, portraying the artist as brave or groundbreaking. Leavitt argued that this reflexive praise reinforces a shallow kind of politics. One that prioritizes image over ideas and confuses popularity with moral clarity. It becomes less about what is being said and more about who is saying it. In drawing attention to these dynamics, Leavitt invited audiences to examine the broader consequences of turning political participation into a trend. When civic engagement is driven by hashtags, selfies, and fan loyalty, she argued, there is a risk that the serious responsibility of voting is reduced to a fashionable gesture, It's not that encouraging people to participate is inherently wrong. It's that the motivations, messaging, and methods behind those encouragements deserve just as much scrutiny as any political platform. Karoline Leavitt's critique of Taylor Swift's public and political presence underscores a growing tension in American society, the collision between celebrity influence and civic responsibility. Her remarks, sharp, skeptical, and layered, with cultural commentary, did more than target a single public figure. They brought to the forefront a broader concern about how fame, image, and emotional storytelling are being used as tools of persuasion in political discourse. For Leavitt, the issue is not whether someone like Swift has the right to speak, but whether that speech should carry the level of political weight it currently does. In a world where followers often equal influence, and where a carefully timed Instagram post can mobilize millions, Leavitt's warning is about the dangers of unchecked celebrity authority. She questioned the sincerity of political engagement that seems to appear only in choreographed bursts, aligned perfectly with media cycles, voter registration pushes, or strategic campaign moments. This isn't about silencing anyone. Rather, it's about encouraging critical thinking, especially when emotional appeal begins to overshadow factual discussion. Her commentary reflects the sentiments of many who feel that their concerns are often dismissed by a culture that values entertainment over expertise. When voting becomes a branded act promoted by pop icons and framed as a moral obligation with one acceptable answer, it diminishes the democratic ideal of diversity in thought. Leavitt's argument urges people to pause and ask, are we being informed or are we being influenced? It's also worth noting that her critique, while wrapped in sarcasm and cultural jabs, echoes a deeper discomfort with how politics have shifted into the realm of spectacle. From viral moments to celebrity endorsements, serious issues are now often filtered through entertainment platforms. For some, this makes politics more accessible. For others, it trivializes the very real consequences of governance and policy. Whether one agrees with her or not, Leavitt's voice adds to a necessary conversation. It challenges the public to reconsider the role of celebrities in shaping national narratives and reminds audiences that admiration for talent should not be confused with trust in judgment. A hit song may inspire emotion, but it should not be a substitute for informed debate. A familiar face on stage does not necessarily bring clarity to complex issues like foreign policy, economic reform, or national security. In the end, Leavitt isn't just calling out Taylor Swift. She's calling out a system that increasingly values emotional resonance over intellectual rigor, image over insight. And while her delivery may be combative, her underlying message is one of caution. Political decisions should be grounded in critical thought, not celebrity charisma. As politics continue to merge with pop culture, the responsibility falls on citizens to distinguish between what entertains and what informs. Only then can democracy maintain its integrity in a world ruled by algorithms, headlines,